Hi, my name is Kyler Prophet, and I'm in PRT 406, and today I'm going to talk about my risk management plan while I'm at the Garner Polar Ice House. Between the Polar Ice House locations, there's three: the Cary location, the Garner location, and the Wake Forest location. In Cary, they have a smaller ice rink. It's not regulation size. In Garner, they do have a regulation size ice, which I'll show you here shortly. And then in the Wake Forest location, they have two regulation size ice rinks. So one Zamboni actually operates between the two, which is kind of cool. Garner, between the three, Garner is typically the quietest. And the biggest reason is that it's hidden. So it's off a main road, kind of back into the corner. So when you're getting over there, you don't even see it when you're coming up on it. You would have no idea it's there unless you had to take that back road in order to get to it. As I spoke of before, it has regulation size ice. This is good for hockey players who want to come out and play. The smaller rink is okay, but when you have regulation size, obviously there's a lot more room to move around. And if you were a basketball player or a baseball player or even a football player, you wouldn't want to play on a smaller field or a smaller court. You wouldn't want to play on the actual regulation size court. So when these hockey players come out for the youth and the adult leagues, this is really, really good for them in particular. A few things that happen in the ice rink is freestyle, where figure skaters can come out. They do their spins, twirls, jumps, all the above, anything else that you can think of. There's a stick and puck session that goes on, so adults and kids come out and they put a helmet on, they got their stick, and basically they just shoot shots like you would go to a basketball gym and just shoot up the basketball the entire time. Another thing is the PHHL that goes on here and the PAHL. PHHL is the Youth House League, so it's Youth Recreation Hockey, and then the PAHL is the Adult League, so it's Adult Recreation Leagues. They typically play at night. The Youth Leagues typically play in the mornings on the weekends. Another thing that everyone always thinks about when it comes to ice rinks is public skating. That's one of the big drivers, and what people don't typically understand when they come to the ice house is that there's more than just public skate going on. Final event, and one that's very, very risky, and I'll talk to a little bit later, is broom ball. You get on the ice with your shoes, you run around, you hit a ball into the net, and that's pretty much it. So it's very dangerous, as you can tell from what I just described. So the biggest inherent risk that we'll talk about first is obviously going to be the ice. As you can see here, it's regulation size, as I talked about earlier. A few things with the ice is that obviously the first thing people think about is it's slick. Yes, absolutely. If you haven't skated before, you're going to come out, you're going to fall a few times. Basically because you don't know how to skate. And there's not really much you can do about it. It's all fine. But there's more in-depth things that one wouldn't think about as well. So for instance, if the Zamboni driver comes out and some ice or something shoots out of it, it leaves a mound of ice on the ice, or a mound of snow, excuse me, and it freezes onto there. If someone's skating really, really fast, they hit their foot with that, it's not going to be a pretty picture. Another thing is, if a skater is out for public skate and they're slinging their foot around in the air and there's kids skating around, one gets too close, that skate could slice someone wide open, as they're obviously sharp. If you're more of an advanced skater, that's why we have things like freestyle, so that skaters can come out here and they can do their spins and twirls while everyone else is well aware as to what's going on here. Few other things, just if someone had picked a hole with their skate, so they're sitting there, they're digging, there's toe picks on the end, it's going to dig a hole right through. If someone skates fast through it, it's not going to be good. And then if the Zamboni driver just does a bad ice cut in general, it's not going to be helpful. It's going to be pretty bad depending on who gets on the ice after. If it's only a few people, not a big deal. If it's a whole lot of people, it's a very big deal. So I'll talk first about kind of the plan as to what you can do with the ice to prevent these things, or in order to be ready for them. So the first thing is just making sure drivers are properly trained. If your Zamboni drivers aren't trained very well, they're not going to do a very good job, and it's going to get a lot of people hurt, and then it's going to continue to just boil over. Obviously, having supervisors or Zamboni drivers as well who notice things that might need to be cleaned. So if they left some snow on the ice and it freezes up, taking a scraper out there, scraping that snow off the ice, and then you're good to go. And then the final thing is just supervising while people are skating to ensure everyone's being safe, no one's skating dangerously, no one's flipping their foot out in the air that could slice someone wide open. And one other thing that I'll show too soon with is the incident report. So if someone gets hurt on the ice, the Polar Ice House fills out an incident report, and it basically covers their butt, just so that if they came back later and tried to sue and say, hey, y'all didn't take this information down, yes, we do, it's right here. So the next thing we're gonna do is I want to talk about the glass around the outside, which is also a risk. If the glass were to break, and when I walk down, you'll be able to see it a little bit better. But if the glass were to break around the outside, there's gonna be glass on the ice. There's gonna be glass around the outside of the ice, and someone's gonna have to vacuum that up. Someone's gonna have to zam the ice up and getting it up as quickly as possible. So I just want to talk about the plan with that. Basically, just be ready to act. If you see the ice breaking, get out there immediately. Get the ice, get people away from where the glass is at on the ice. Get people away from around the outside so that someone can vacuum that up. Have a staff member stand there. One day in Cary, there was kids in camp walking around barefoot. If they were to walk straight through that and get shards of glass up in their feet, it would not have been a pretty picture. Okay, so next up what we're going to do is I'm actually going to talk about a risk that's right here sitting with me in the DJ booth. And that's the DJ booth ladder. You can see how steep it is. And we'll actually take a little walk down through here as well. As I'm walking down, you can see how straight down it is. If someone were to fall on this, it would be pretty catastrophic. So one of the biggest things we could do in order to prevent that is by putting a chain up, which you can see is hanging right here that actually doesn't sit up on it. And then having adequate supervision as well in order to keep people from getting up to it. Here's the glass that I was talking about earlier. You can see how big those pieces are, so the glasses would go everywhere. And it's pretty heavy to put up, so you're gonna need another staff member to help you put that back up. But there's really no way to prevent it breaking. Once it's hit and cracked, it's gonna go regardless of what you have going on. So we're gonna travel back to the Zamboni room. And this is where we will finish up this tour. As you can see, there is an employees only sign with the chain right here. There's also an employees only sign. As we walk back into the compressor room, it's gonna get pretty loud, so we're just gonna walk straight through it. All right, so the compressor room harbors a lot of things that go on with the ice. So if the ice isn't freezing right, if it's all of a sudden melting very, very fast, you know it's probably something that has to do with the compressor room. So getting out there immediately and checking things out that are in there. As you can see, we are in the Zamboni room right now. A lot of risks that are associated with in here. As you can see, there's a lot of tools. Obviously the Zamboni is a big piece of machinery. And the reason that those employees only signs were really important was that it keeps people from going back here. So if you have someone who doesn't know what they're doing and they decide that they're just going to venture back here one day, they could get hurt pretty badly. Especially if they were to try to operate the Zamboni, if they were just being dumb or, you know, being kids or whatever someone wants to be, the ZAM could really injure them. So the biggest thing is just being ready for that, is just having constant supervision throughout the rink. If you see someone walking back in here, get to them immediately, ask them, please leave. In Cary, there's been situations where it's not like this. There's just a chain up in front and you can walk back to it. And plenty of people have just picked that chain right up, walked back to it because they thought they could do whatever they want. Just have to let them know, hey, it's a risk. I can't allow you back here. Our insurance doesn't allow it, or something along those lines. So through all these things, the impact that this will have is the management just basically needs to have a little bit more downward pressure on the actual employees that are here. So in order to keep these things safe, keep everyone safe that's here, just have someone who's constantly supervising, constantly walking around, constantly drifting, so they can make sure no one's doing what they're not supposed to be doing. You're always going to have people who don't understand something or whatever the case is. So just making sure that people understand they can't be in certain places, making sure that the chain's up in front of the door, just keeping people safe. One final thing I wanted to talk about was that there hasn't really been anybody who's sued yet. Because we fill out the Ice House fills out those incident reports. They make sure that they're supervising, making sure they're kind of calming down the situation. But at some point, if a customer realized that a staff member was struggling with something, and it seemed like the entire building knew, and it seemed like the other employees knew, they could possibly file something that said that the company was negligent in the fact that they knew that staff member was struggling, maybe struggling to do an ice cut, and nobody did anything about it. So that's my virtual tour here at the Polar Ice House in Garner. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I labeled all the risks, obviously the ice being the biggest one, as everyone would think about, but there's smaller ones that happen too. So this is Kyler Prophet. I'm signing off from PRT 406.